Yes.
There we go. Okay. How many of you have given your elevator pitch? I see people now with raised hands. You've never given an elevator pitch?
Speak and raise your hand.
I think everybody here has given an elevator pitch. When you go into a networking session, whether it just be a dinner, an outing, a networking meeting or something of that type, and someone comes up to you and says, "What's your name? What do you do?" That's when your elevator pitch kicks in. Now, there's a lot of discussion as far as what an elevator pitch is and what a presentation is. The bottom line is it's something you really need to practice. It's not something that comes natural. Now, many of you might have been involved in your projects for anywhere from a few months to a handful of years, some of you even longer than that. And some of you become so intimate with your technology and your project that you use jargon words. You use M24685, we do that 3 times, and boy, the customers just love it. And guys say, "Great, what the heck is that?" So you really need to think about what you say when you give a presentation or you say your elevator pitch to someone. And it's hard. And all of us who have been involved in this business of helping companies begin, or many of us having done it multiple times, probably many of you as well, realize how tough it really is. One of the other hats that I wear is a member of the Pasadena Angels, and what we've compiled is a short list. Now, this is a little bit different than our presentation is going to be here, but the overall content is very similar to what we'd like to see you do. Think of this as kind of like an extended elevator pitch. I guess it does that because I don't have the power plugged in. Time's out quicker. An extended elevator pitch for this presentation. So, type of things that we'd like to see you do is you need to have a title slide. Of course you do. We want to know who you are. Describe your company just very briefly. Just your contact information. It's amazing how many times people forget to do this. They go through their whole pitch, and at the end they go, well, who are you? So, the other thing is what is the problem that you're solving? Now, when you came up with your idea, you had an idea of why you were developing it. You knew that there was an issue, there's some sort of a problem, or as we like to call it, pain that you're solving. And we also like to understand that it's a large problem. In other words, there's a lot of people out there, whether they be companies or individuals, depending on what your market is, whether it's consumer, B2B or B2C. There I am with some jargon of my own. But that you understand the potential. In other words, you've done a feasibility study of what your best markets are going to be and the size of them, and we just want to know what you think of that. So we just want to know, how big is your market? We want to understand the industry, and we want a market forecast of what you think you're going to be able to do. And this needs to be done very briefly again. Again, being concise and being specific is very important. And that's where it gets more difficult. We understand that, which is why we talk about these pitches. We know the solution overview. And we want to understand how you alleviate the pain that you described earlier. A technology overview. Now, many of you, especially if you're more technology oriented, one of the things that is probably the biggest problem that we see in presentations is that you spend 90% of your presentation on the technology. Now, it is true that technology is critical. We need to understand both what it is and that you understand both the technology and your market. But when you're doing a company presentation, especially for funding, we need to understand your business as much, if not even more, than just what your technology is. So it's a component of the presentation. It is not the presentation. So that's where it differs from, say, doing a product pitch as you would to one of your customers versus a company pitch as you would to an investor. Your current status. We want to know where you're at. Are you just in concept stage? Are you in prototype stage? Are you in proof of concept stage? Where are you? Maybe you have customers already. or you've done some customer work, and you have some of them involved with you, and they've helped you in evolving the development of your project. That's ideal. Investors love to hear that you've actually got some of your target market involved with you as you're evolving your company and your technology and your solution. This is wonderful. So if you've done that, we want to know about that. Marketing, sales, distribution overview. Okay, you've described your overall marketplace, you've described the potential of it, you've described your potential forecasts, like say for the next 3 years. We just need to know that in summation form, that's it. Now we want to understand your distribution, the plan. How are you going to address it? How are you going to get these sales? You're going to sell direct, and you have a superstar guy that's been involved in this industry for the last 20 years. He's, you have all these awards and everything, has all these fantastic contacts right in your specific marketplace. Or you're going to use channel marketing, through a distributor. Or are you going to do a combination of that? How are you going to do your international sales? We just want to know what your plan is. How do you plan to actually scale your business to get the numbers that you're describing in your presentation? Your management, competition. Now, sometimes we hear the phrase, we don't have competition. No one else is doing this. But there's always an alternative. So sometimes another word for competition is alternative options. Because it might be to do nothing. Your customers might say, that's great, but that costs $100. I prefer not to do anything and take my risk. That's a possibility. So that is competition for you then. So you just need to understand that yes, you have direct competitors, you have indirect competitors, and you have other alternatives that could be equally viable. And we just need to understand what that means as far as impact to you and how you compare against those. Management team. We not only want to know more about you and your background and how you feel you're prepared to address this, but your team members also. Do you have a co-founder? Do you have, if you're the technical person, maybe they're the business person or vice versa. Your salesperson, who your legal team, your accounting firm, all of those issues. We just want to know who it is that you have so we understand who we're dealing with. Again, especially when you're talking about investors, the team is critical because they're the ones who help make the decisions, actually make those decisions as you continue to move forward. Back, here we go. Financial summary. Now, we don't have to always talk about what's referred to as pro forma financials. If any of you don't necessarily understand that term, please come see us. We'll be glad to talk more in depth about that. For purposes of this presentation, just kind of like your marketing forecast or something is all that we're looking at. Sometimes you might want to take a look at what your profits are going to be. We certainly want to understand that you have a feasible business model. We also like to see, in some cases, your EBITDA things, which is your earnings before taxes and everything else. For this presentation, it just needs to be very straightforward and summarized. We're not looking for lots of financials and all, but, and I always put that but out there, especially if someone in the audience gets interested in talking further with you, have that in your back pocket. Always come prepared with your financials so that if the question comes up, you can just go, boom, here we go. Here's how many employees we're going to need over the next 3 years. Boom. Here's what we look like as far as the balance sheet and all. Boom, here's our revenues and stuff in detail by product and by option over the next 3 years. Exit scenarios. Again, if it's a funding pitch especially, are you looking at a merger acquisition? If so, who might be some of the potential acquirers of your organization? Are there any comparatives as far as multipliers that you might have that some of them have done? Are they going 3 or 4 times revenue, 10 times EBITDA? How is it being ranked? Just so they have kind of a little bit of flow to create some juices of interest on behalf of your investors. Deal terms, you may or may not really, and especially for our presentation here, necessary to do that. If you are looking for funding, that's something that you can mention. You know, maybe we're looking for $100,000, or looking for $500,000, or $50 million, whatever the case might be. But hopefully not as much that, might not find that in the audience, but certainly we need to understand what it is that you're looking for as far as how you're going to move your company forward. And again, just kind of re-summarize everything in a final slide. Now this is for more of like about a 15-minute presentation, so we need to bring that down more concisely to about a 5-minute. Now, I have this sheet. It's an actual sheet that's put together, and I'm glad to distribute to everyone who attends today. And one other thing that I will point out, David Rose, fantastic pitch man. The guy's, I think he's got over $100 million in equity funding in his career, if not more than that by now. And this is a great video, and certainly watch it. I take a look at it about every 4 or 5 months myself, just to kind of refresh myself. So I'll be glad to do that and answer any questions that you have.